Hey everyone, today we're going to be showing you how to install the Tusk UTV Adventure roof rack on your 2024 and newer Polaris RZR XP4 1000. Now, whether you're doing longer day trips or going on an overland adventure and need a way to get some of your gear out of the cab and up on top of the roof, this is a great way to do it. There's plenty of tie down points to keep all of those items secure. Now, when you go to order this, you've got several options. So you can get it by itself, you can get it with a profile aluminum roof, and even an LED light bar. So you've got some options there. Now, in either case, whatever you go with, you do want to keep in mind you do need an aluminum roof to get this installed. And then when you are installing it, you only want the front two mounting bolts in the aluminum roof to begin with the process. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. To start out, we've laid out everything on the bench just to help us stay organized throughout the process. And it's always a good idea to compare everything to your instructions, make sure it's all there. Now, before we go over to the machine, I do want to just give you a general idea of how this goes together. So you're going to have a front plate, obviously goes towards the front of the machine. Then you have a bunch of cross members going all the way down across the roof. These are going to support the rack and your luggage. The wider one is for the front. Then you've got a back plate right here. These four rails, these are your side rails. The longer ones are going to go towards the front, shorter ones towards the back. You've got side plates that connect these together. And then you have the option to run a light bar mount or light bar brackets. We are going to install those today. The light bar video is separate, so check that out if you need it. With that said, as far as the hardware goes, I know it looks like a lot, but it's really not that bad once you get going. And every bolt is going to use one of those washers. So with all that said, let's head over to the machine. Now at the machine, we're going to start by installing the front cross member, and you want the mounting holes facing the front of the machine. So to help out with this, to keep everything from sliding off the roof, it helps if you use a couple rags on top of here, and that way you can set your hardware up here at the same time. So first thing we want to do is take our M8 by 65 millimeter button head bolt. We've got a washer we're going through. Then we're going to be going through the front cross member, just like that. And this is where these beveled spacers come into play. So the bevel, that side of the spacer is going to sit against the roof. The tall one is going to be on top, and you just want the bevel to complement the angle of the roof. And I'm going to start that through that hole in the roof. We've got a beveled spacer that goes on the other side of that. It's going to go in between the frame gusset and the roof. And again, this one is beveled. Just match that up with the angle of your roof. Slide that on through, make sure it's going through the gusset. Then we've got a nylock nut on the back side. And we're leaving all of the hardware loose until everything is assembled, so we can go ahead and do those same steps on the other side. The next step is to install a cross member at the back of the front half of the roof. So we're just going into existing mounting locations for the roof. And with that being said, we're going to be installing the side rails at the same time. So the tall part of the side rail, that's going to be facing the front of the machine. Shorter side is going to be towards the back. It also has this little tab. We're going to take an M8 by 55 millimeter button head bolt. Again, through the washer. We'll go through that. Then our cross member. After that, we've got just the straight spacers. Take one of those. We're going to set this in place. We're going through the roof. There's a little spacer for that roof, and then the gusset in the roof, and we've got the nylock nut on the back side. Then we'll do that on the other side. Now we can attach the side rails to the front cross member using the M8 by 20 millimeter button head bolts along with the washers. And we've got the nylock nuts underneath. Now for these next steps, it's going to be for the rear cross member and rear side rails. We need to start with these clamps for the Tusk roof. So if you have a Tusk roof installed and you didn't watch our other video, you're going to want to cut out this little foam section because we're using wider clamps for the Adventure roof rack than you would if you're just running the roof. So with that said, we need to remove these P clamps. We're going to remove the bolt and that spacer out of our clamp. Now, like I mentioned, we already cut the foam tape from this little section where the roof is going to mount up. But if you haven't done that, just kind of line this mounting hole up with the slot in the roof, and then make sure you leave a little margin on each side of the foam tape. Get that cut with your razor blade, and then you can slide all 4 clamps into place. Now you're going to take your M8 by 100 millimeter bolt. You've got the spacer for that clamp. And with that foam tape, you might have to press against your roll cage to get the bolt to go all the way through the complete clamp and through the roof. And with that coming through, we have a flat spacer. Set the cross member on top of that. Now for the side rail, the shorter end of that is going to be facing the back of the machine, and on the bottom you can see we've got the long slot, the short slot. That one is going to go over this bolt, just like that. And then on top of that, we just have a nylock nut and no washer. Then we're going to do those same steps for the remaining 4 clamps. And this is the one exception that you do not use a washer with these bolts. Now for the next step, we're going to take the 4 M8 by 25 millimeter button head bolts, and we're going to be installing our front plate. Now again, for us, we are installing the light bar brackets at the same time. These are going to sit on the outside of the side rail, and the T on the logo, that's going to help you identify which side goes where. So on the right side or passenger side, if your logo looks like this, you've got the correct one in place. So we'll go ahead and put the bolts and washers in place. And this step could be a little bit easier if you have a friend helping you. With those bolts in there, we can take the front plate and we'll slide it onto the bolts. And install the nylock nuts on the back side. And then we'll do those same steps on the other side. Next, we're going to install the back plate. So this is going to be the M8 by 20 millimeter bolts with the washers and nylock nuts. We are setting this piece in place with the Tusk logo in the correct orientation, and it's going to sit inside of the side rails. Next, we'll set the side connector plate in place. We've got the Tusk logo in the correct orientation. Now we're going to take our M8 by 20 millimeter button head bolts. We've got the washer, and the nylock nut is going to go on the inside. Then we'll do the same steps on the other side. Now from here we can install the rest of the cross members using the remaining M8 by 20 millimeter bolts, the washers, and the nylock nuts. And to help get these installed, I'm using a 5 millimeter ball Allen and a 13 millimeter combo wrench. After that, if you're installing a light bar, you can go ahead and set that in place now. You're going to use the M8 by 16 millimeter bolts along with the M8 washers. And it's a good idea to have a friend help you hold this in place as you get the hardware installed. Next, we're ready to tighten everything down. So you're going to want to do this in a couple of steps and get the roof rack squared up on top of the roof and with the roll cage. So the first thing I want to do is tighten any of the bolts that are mounting through the roof. That's going to get you nice and square, and then we can go back through, and I'm going to start at the back and work my way forward to get things tightened down. Now in the front corner, we can tighten down the top bolt. The bottom bolt, we want to wait, and we're actually going to tighten down this bolt that's going through the very front of the side rail. That way we can still reach it with our wrench. And then once you get to the light bar, you want to make sure you aim it and then tighten those bolts down. Next, we're going to show you how to install the center supports. So this step is completely optional. Most people are going to be done at this point, but if you are carrying bigger items, something like that, and maybe these cross members are bowing just a little bit in the middle, you want to get these center supports installed. So to do that, we're going to take our 21/64 inch drill bit that came in the kit. You're going to find the center hole. That's going to be your guide for drilling these holes, and just go straight down through the roof. Make sure you don't have anything mounted underneath that you're going to damage. And keep in mind, on this roof, there's two holes. These front two ones, they're going to be at an angle, so just make sure you get the drill bit straight. And we just have a rag underneath that caught any shavings that went through, but for the top, I'm just grabbing another rag. I'm going to wipe those up. And then for the front two mounting locations, you're going to start out with the beveled spacer. So again, the beveled side, that's going to sit against the roof and just match the angle. And it's kind of hard to get these underneath, but you're just going to pull up on the cross member, slide that underneath, get it set in place. Then we've got the 60 millimeter bolt for the front two locations. Washers going on. Then you've got the beveled spacer for the bottom and your nylock nut. So that's going to be for the front two mounting locations, and as you move back, you're just going to go to the straight spacers. You've got the 45 millimeter bolts and then just the nylock nuts on the inside. And that's how you install the Tusk UTV Adventure roof rack on your 2024 and newer Polaris RZR XP4 1000. If you have any questions, leave those down in the comments. If you need to pick one of these up, they're available on our website. Just click the link in the description below. And if you want to see more helpful content like this, subscribe to our channel. I'm Charles with Rocky Mountain ATV MC. Thanks for watching.